Welcome, everyone. I am Chris Gore from Film Thread. This is Hollywood on the Rocks. So much to talk about today. James Gunn's vision at DC Studios. What do we think? Alan Ng and I will tell you our thoughts. And it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag of thoughts. Also today, we're going to talk about episode 3 of The Last of Us. Alan and I last night just saw Knock at the Cabin, which is M. Night Shyamalan's new film. Plus, do you like pancakes? Do you like Ant-Man? There's a reason I'm saying all this. All right, now it's time. It's time. I like to do this every show. I kick off with a little drink. Check this out. I got this on, of all places, Etsy. It is a Dark Knight bottle opener, which I'm going to use right now to open a bottle of Topo Chico. Drink up, grab a beverage of your choice. It's time now for Hollywood on the Rocks. Get your rocks on. Wait, forget that I said that. Let's go. Alan, how's it going today, man?
Hey, good. Oh, busy. But yeah, I mean, we have thoughts. We have thoughts on a lot.
We have thoughts. Yeah. A lot of thoughts, actually.
I don't want to tip my hand, but yeah, we have thoughts.
Well, we went to dinner last night. That's all we talked about. That's all we talked about. We went to dinner before the movie.
I know, I'm like, we should be talking about this on the stream and not over dinner.
True. But like, man, we just couldn't stop talking about it. And then not only that, I listened to like everyone else's thoughts about the topic. But let's not get into it right now. A lot more to discuss. Let's see who's in the chat, because people in the chat were mocking us for being 3 minutes late. Come on, folks. Cut us some slack here. We're trying to prep the show. We're trying to get things ready. We want it to be perfect for you. And
all I can say is I'm not the one who's late. That's
well, I was the one who was late because I literally just finished eating a Trader Joe's quiche Lorraine. And you'll have my Yelp review soon. Let's see who's in the chat, because we don't have oh wait, Alan has been starring people in the chat. I love that. Oh, Alan, I love it. Let's go. Okay. Lord Thaw says, hail Chris and Alan. Thank you for being here. David Glenn, howdy everyone. And David Glenn goes on with a super chat, is also a member. Chris, is there an online network site for writers looking for writing partners? Not specifically that, but I'll give you some resources. One is Lit Reactor. Go to Lit, it's L-I-T, reactor.com. It is Chuck Palahniuk's organization. They do writer workshops, both online and in person. And it is a resource for professional writers. That's litreactor.com. In addition, it's a great resource. I subscribe to their newsletter, and it's every type of writer at every level. You're writing a novel, you're a journalist, fiction, nonfiction. They do classes. It's like a support group for writers. Litreactor.com. The other one is InkTip. It's either InkTip or InkTips. That is a resource that connects producers with aspiring screenwriters. And there are several others. If I think of them throughout the show, I'll blurt them out. Those are the two that come to mind. There's InkTip. There you go. Filmmakers made 400 movies through InkTip. It's literally, I'm looking for a script, small number of actors, small cast. It's set in a lake, and you can upload your screenplay and connect with producers. But those are the two best resources off the top of my head. There are smaller ones as well, but those are ones that I have used. Thank you, David Glenn, for your $5 super chat. Toxic Waltz N8, as a non-comic reader, I'm stoked for the new DCU. At least they're trying something new. We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into
it. Michael Tynan says, hey, chat. And Toxic Waltz N8 goes on to say, and it's funny seeing everyone so surprised that Avatar is breaking records, yet no one is talking about it, because as film nerds, we are in a minority, so our bias is different. Well, I knew after I saw that first screening that this was going to make a pile of money. Because I thought to myself, well, this isn't deep thinking sci-fi. This is mainstream family entertainment. And I knew on that, and it's also spectacle. So I knew on that it would be successful. And you know, I go to the Burbank AMC 16. There's still people lining up to go see Avatar every week since it opened in late December. So, Alan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the family aspect of it that kind of pushed over the edge for me, saying that, yeah, this will succeed, because it's, you know, the first one is not family at all. It's violence, it's environmental message, you know, it's redemption. This one, family. And I think this was a great, for a movie franchise that hasn't done anything for 15 years, this was a great reboot.
Well, it's a good
great
way
reintroduction to it, and to build a broad audience for it.
Yeah, I think it was good in the sense that it kicked off, you know, what's going to be, you know, a trilogy of movies telling a story beyond Jake Sully from the first film. Because the first film, I thought, good movie. I was entertained, and there's no reason to explore it. It's the story completed. And I like the way that this story, you know, set up conflicts that were not resolved in this first outing. So get ready. Like it or not, more Avatars coming on the way.
I will bet the sequel will be a lot less family than this one.
Well, I think it'll grow up in the same way that the Harry Potter films grew. The Harry Potter films grew up with the audience. The first being the most childlike, the first and two for kids. It was the third one. The third one was Prisoner of Azkaban. Is that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. That's when they're kind of teenagers. You see, you know, hey, they're growing up. And that is my favorite of the Harry Potter.
Well, Gary Oldman is also a good reason to see it as well.
So good. Yeah. Late and Gary, says David Glenn. David, cut me some slack. If we're late, it's never for more than a few minutes. And it's usually because we're trying to prep the show last minute. Mr. Smith, almost missed this. Glad to have you, Mr. Smith. Solomon Thornton says, what up? What's up? Holy Hand Grenade says, Alan with beers. You will never have beers with Alan. You will never.
Well, you will have the beer.
You will have the beer. Yeah. Actually, there's a couple of things coming up that I think you and I will be attending that everyone is welcome to attend as well. Well, tomorrow I'm seeing Knock at the Cabin again at the AMC Burbank 16. The 6:45 p.m. show at the Dolby Digital Theater is almost sold out. If you want to join us, we do a movie meetup. We meet up at either Yard House or Islands. It's just a big group, like 10, 15 of us. We go see a movie every week, open invitation.
Yeah. And I will be seeing what Chris Gore calls the feel-good movie of the year.
Okay, we're going to talk about it on Friday. 80 for Brady, which Tom Brady just announced his final retirement.
Oh no, I think he has 3 more in him.
3 more retirements? Okay, there we go. But yeah, so that's open on April 21st. This is actually, I'm announcing this for the first time. I haven't announced it publicly, but just because I appreciate everyone that watches our live streams, on April 21st at the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana, California, the world premiere of Attack of the Doc. There will be a limited number of tickets for sale. I'm going to announce that to our Kickstarter backers first. There are Kickstarter backers who bought, you know, the package to come to the premiere. And then I'm going to announce to them that we have tickets. We may have to add a second show, but it's April 21st, Attack of the Doc premiere. And then the following week, the movie will be available digital. I haven't even said anything yet. But I'm telling you.
Not even to me.
If you live in the area, we'll have a limited number, very small number of tickets for sale for that. And we may have to add a second show. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then in June, we're going to be doing Award This, which is our annual indie film award show. Again, anyone can buy a ticket to that show. Shucksy, I'll get my rocks off as soon as I see Alan. Lord Thoth says 96. Wait, what? I don't understand. 96. What is he trying to say?
69.
That was it. It was 69.
You gotta move faster. That's all I'm saying.
No, I mean, I get it. 96.
69. Yeah.
All right, there we go. All
right.
All right, back to your comments. Yeah, Jens Anderson of the Tall Reed. That's not late. Yes, cut us some slack. I feel like Under 5 minutes. Please cut us some slack here. Toxic Waltz N8. In my world, you're not 15 minutes early, then you're late. You must work in the military. I'm always, with the exception of this, like if I have a meeting, like a physical meeting in the real world, I'm always early. And then I just play games on my phone or waste time on social media.
Well, Gary has set a good standard of what is late. And
I love it. I love it. He makes me look good. So I love about Gary. Shucksy says, guys, touch that like button without consent now. Yeah, you are just go ahead and touch it.
Hi, 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 hi.
Brock Samson. Hey guys, I'm back. Just got my Movie Pass 2.0 invite, trying to decide between which level to get. Oh, I didn't know Movie Pass is back.
yeah,
Interesting. Didn't know that.
yeah, it's yeah. I think I'm staying with AMC.
Amanda Nowicki asks a very obvious question. That's Detective Comics number 27 in the background. It is a reprint that was put out by Loot Crate. I have not opened it, but Detective Comics 27, the first appearance of Batman, and there is it's a reprint, and it's you can see it like it's in this way. No, wait, the other way. It's in the background right there. So there you go. Detective Comics number 27 from May 1939. There you are. Some super chats came in. Let's get those. MK Solid 82 says $1 for $1.99 says, can Alan say Dr. Jones, no more parachutes?
No. For $1.99. Dr. Jones, no more parachutes. So
that's going to get
I'm not going to go full-blown Asian on that one.
That's going to get clipped.
Yeah.
And that's going to get clipped, and that's all I'll say about that. Yeah. Thanks, MK Solid 82. John Orchard for 10. Thank you for that. Thanks for the info on the writing sites. This is why I follow you guys. You guys rock. Literally, if you have any question where it's something, if I can help you with it, I will give you email addresses. I'll give you websites. I'll give you recommendations. I'll tell you no BS what to do to, move forward in your goal. Cause I appreciate the people who helped me. Andrzej Merrick for 100 CZK. I love it. Hey, Chris and Alan, fan from Central Europe here. Would be great if you would consider doing a collab stream with Geeking with James Hancock channel. You three are my indie curators. Oh, I've never heard of Geeking with James Hancock. Alan, can you look it up? I'll subscribe.
Yeah. Those are Czech crowns.
Czech crowns, 100 Czech crowns. Well, thank you for that. Geeking with James Hancock. I will check it out based on your recommendation. Ed Bangor for 5 says, Gunn backing Miller's Flash leaves me wondering if he's got compromat on the studio or if Zaslav wants inclusivity points. That is a big question. I don't understand why Ezra Miller, why that situation continues where they're not working with Henry Cavill, but they're working with Ezra Miller. And I don't have a problem with Ezra Miller like a lot of other people do. I think that he was fine. Yeah. Not everybody can be a mega Chad like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, so he's sort of a little, he's sort of on the spectrum, not as self-assured as the other heroes. And I like that. I thought his portrayal was fine. He was also comic relief.
Yeah. I mean, I think the answer's simple. A, the movie's done. B, the movie can lead into the reboot of the DCU. And 3, people are saying it's good. And so you do what you do with the hand you're dealt.
I've heard it from more than one person that the movie is a lot of fun. Amanda Nowicki says, I'm a Marvel fan, not a DC Comics fan.
So Amanda and I have something in common here.
I don't want to prejudge then. My apologies for that, Amanda. I appreciate the comment. Dream Profit for $4.99 says, are you guys concerned that DC is replicating the Marvel model of mixing TV shows and movies right out of the gate? A model I don't think is working. I would agree. We'll get into it deeply, but I do think that I was talking about this on the Nerdrotic Nooner before we started. I don't think you need everything to match. You can have a TV universe and a cinematic universe separate from each other. and a cartoon universe. How would we have gotten when Tim Burton was making? I'll probably repeat this when we talk about it. Tim Burton was doing Batman Returns. That was the year that Bruce Timm's Batman series launched, totally unconnected, two completely different things. Bruce Timm went for more of this sort of retro future design, which I love. I love that retro future look of the Batman animated series. Now this is just making me want to watch it. But it was different than what Tim Burton's vision was. And I like that. I like that they're different visions that can coexist. I don't think everything needs to feed into one narrative. I think it's a problem. We're gonna get into that soon. I want to talk about a couple of things. First, let's talk about these are some sort of quick hit news items, and I predict that the 2023 Oscars will have the worst ratings in history. How do I know this to be true? Alan, I'm going to convince you, and it's a very simple chart. Last year, the ratings, got a little bit of a bump middle of the show, which overall gave it a better average. It's still not even close to Super Bowl numbers, because let's not forget that the Oscars was one of the few events, televised events, that rivaled or got close to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And now it just completely continues to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. Now, why is that? And I ran across this chart and I want to share it with you. These are it's the best picture nominees that were box office sales hits. So these are movies that were huge at the box office that were additionally nominated for Oscars. In the 1980s, it stood at around 52%. So half the Oscar nominees were box office hits, blockbusters. In the 90s, it ticked up a little bit, like maybe around 55%. In the early 2000s, it's about half that. Maybe 29% now, and it continued to dip in the early 2010s. Now we get to the 2020s. Only 14% of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture were box office hits. Everything else, from Women Talking to Banshees of Inisherin to among others, were not box office hits. I think you could argue maybe 3 of the 10 nominees for Best Picture this year had like a solid or were box office hits. That's the reason. When you nominate movies that people are familiar with, that are popular movies, and you can have a mix. I think the 1980s and 90s had it just about right. Half the movies are movies that and are popular, big hits, and the other half of the movies are movies that you're unfamiliar with that maybe are worth discovering. Alan, what are your thoughts on this?
I think you're 75% right. I think also in the early days, there was no DVR. So watching the Oscars was a must-see event. People stayed at home and watched it as opposed to just recording it and then waiting to watch it later or just waiting. Mm-hmm. But and then also, it was a spectacle then. We had entertainment was fun back in the 80s and the 90s. Being a celebrity was fun. We got to know what you were wearing. We got to know, we had Johnny Carson telling, he was telling good jokes, but he was poking fun at the crowd as well. And so, there's also the, there was more than just the movies to watch. And now we get political speeches. We get, inane banter. And I think political correctness has been a detriment, definitely, to the Oscar broadcast.
I would agree with you, and I think unless the Oscars really corrects this, you're going to see even worse ratings this year than last, because you're not going to have Will Smith with the slap, and I don't think Jimmy Kimmel's even Jimmy Kimmel. I just have little faith that he'll have the material, because I just. You need to get someone like a Dave Chappelle. You got to get someone like a Bill Burr, someone who will, basically go after sacred cows and do the show for the audience at home, not doing the show for the people in the room. So I think it's going to continue to dwindle.
Well, and also look at it, let's take the big two, Top Gun and Avatar. I mean, is Tom Cruise going to be there? You know, if he is, he's not going to be there long enough for us to really care.
Right.
You know, the cast of Avatar, you know, except for maybe Zoe Saldana, I don't think people are going to care about. You know, it's like there's no big stars in these two films that will bring enough audience that is needed to give at least a blip of an increase in the ratings. And
Well, yeah, I just think it's a foregone conclusion. And if you're going to bet on anything, bet that it's going to be boring. All right, let's pivot. Wait, here, hang on a sec. We're going to pivot real quickly to another topic. All right. Someone posted that on our no, someone emailed that to me. God, I forget who that was. But I want to talk about another topic here, which is Marvel. We're going to get to DC in just a minute. These are just some quick hit things I want to let you guys know about. Do you like pancakes? Do you like Marvel movies? Well, guess what? IHOP has a deal now. IHOP has a deal where you can start your Quantum Mania adventure with us. You go to IHOP, you spend over $30 at IHOP, which actually you kind of have to actually work to spend. I mean, you can get breakfast there for like $7, right? But yeah, if you go there, they're giving you a free ticket to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantum Mania if you spend over $30 at IHOP. So I have a question. Pancakes and the Ant-Man, I have no idea. Are they quantum cakes? Are they going to have Wasp waffles? What are they going to have? But is Marvel look, they didn't do promotions like this for other Marvel movies. Is Marvel desperate for doing this? Alan, what are your thoughts? And by the way,
they're desperate. I mean, you know,
I personally
are we going to get a Happy Meal out of this, by the way, or is it going straight to IHOP?
I have no idea, but I actually really like IHOP. Like they have this one called the Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity. You get eggs, bacon, and you get pancakes covered in fruit. It's the best thing there to me. All right, it's best thing there, rivaling even the Grand Slam at Denny's. But does it come off as desperate?
They are desperate. I mean, if you're giving away tickets, I mean, you know, I mean, you kind of rely on these ticket sales, and now you're giving away tickets. Yeah, it just, I don't know. This is just weird. You know, I thought when you said that they were going to give you something, it would have been like a comic book, maybe a preview to this, but this is weird.
Well, I just asked the question because I've been looking, and it's like Ant-Man and the Wasp. There are certain screenings that are sold out. It's not as big. Not as big as Thor. Not as big as Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. And so I just wonder, one, I also want to tell our audience, if you like delicious pancakes and you want to see a Marvel movie, save yourself some cash and take advantage of this offer. So I look, I'm not a shill for them. I don't care. If there's an opportunity to save money, good. Right. So we have more money to pay for gas and eggs in the state of California, but it does come off as a little desperate only because these types of ticket giveaway offers we haven't seen for other Marvel movies. So what do you think? I want to go to the chat and get your thoughts.
Well,
on this.
One thing also is Ant-Man has always been kind of on the low end of priorities in terms of Marvel movies. You know, from the very beginning, it's just meant to be light, and I assume they didn't spend as much money on it as they did with the other ones. It just, I don't know. This just reeks of desperation at this point.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go to your chat comments and questions. Imperfect says, when is the Film Threat episode at IHOP? We could do that.
Yeah.
We could do that.
We could get our tickets.
Then Yash Srivastava says, Ant-Man 3 looks like Spy Kids. It looks, you know what it looks like? It looks like, if you look at this image, and I should zoom in on this. Where, okay. Let me zoom in right here. It looks to me more like Power Rangers. Does it look like Power Rangers to you when you look at like?
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing that comes to mind is, you know, this is the first one where I don't think they're not promoting the faces of the stars.
Right.
Beyond just this particular promo still, you don't see Paul Rudd's face, you don't see Evangeline Lilly's face. You would at least have Jonathan Major's face, but you don't see his. I don't understand the marketing tactics for this movie.
Yeah. MK Solid 82 for Buck99 says Spy Kids 4 featuring Ant-Man. Yeah. And then John Orchard for 5 says Quantum Mania sounds like the sequel to Quadrophenia by The Who. I'll show myself out. By the way, John Orchard, I used to go see Quadrophenia in theaters at midnight shows when I was in high school. It was that and Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was definitely a nerd. So I saw Quadrophenia. I also went to see Tommy, which is the rock opera by Pete Townsend and The Who. So yes, I got that reference and I love that movie. We Are the Mods. It's a great album, concept album as well. Michael Tynan for 5 says, quit, Chris, stop picking on Mr. Ng. Ha, love you both. I agree what you said on Gary's Nooner. Why not let the movie, TV/video game franchises have their own storylines? Otherwise, you're stifling creativity. I agree. We're going to get into it. We're going to pivot again. We're going to get through some of these chat questions here, but I wanted to bring these news items to light because they're just fun to talk about. Big Jack Gameplays is a member. Thank you for that. Jimmy Kimmel will laugh all the way through the nominations. I believe he will. So
I just want him to really insult somebody again.
Well, I'm not. Look, I loved Jimmy Kimmel at when he did the Man Show.
Yeah,
when he did the Man Show. I thought he was great, and now I'm not a fan. The stuff he's said, I just think he is incredibly divisive. He's just sort of one-sided politically speaking. I don't mind making fun of one side of the political aisle if you balance it out with both sides being mocked. And I think that Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel are just unwatchable at this stage.
Yeah.
So
my conspiracy theory says that they have something on him. For Jimmy Kimmel, it's probably easy. It's the Man Show. And that if he ever wants to, it's like if he ever steps out of line, they're just going to unload all the Jimmy Kimmel dirt. And so he's playing good.
I mean, watch any episode of The Man Show, which I thought was great. Girls jumping on trampolines. It had a sense of humor. It laughed at itself, and it was a really fun show.
Yeah.
And they used to give the audience beer. They would just let them drink beer. It was mostly a male audience, and they would serve.
Wasn't he doing blackface, doing Karl Malone or something?
Yes, he did a recurring segment where he played Karl Malone. And yeah, I mean, what can you say? All right, let's pivot. Okay, now let's get into the big main topic today, and we have a couple things we want to talk about in terms of reviews. So, James Gunn's DC film vision, will it work? I want to get your overall impressions. I have some other graphics that I want to show, but what was your, it was announced on social media via a 5-minute video on James Gunn's Twitter, the vision for the new DC cinematic universe. Alan, what are your thoughts on the presentation that you saw? Well,
like Amanda Nowicki, I'm not a big DC fan. I don't really read DC comics. And so everything that James Gunn said, I have no clue what they are. What is it? The
Authority,
the Batman one, the Brave and the Bold. I have no idea. The Lantern Corps, don't know that. Booster Gold, don't know what that is. But what I will say is, I am more excited about DC than I am about Marvel. I think,
really,
yeah.
Really? Okay, why?
The Marvels? Am I looking forward to the Marvels? The only thing I'm looking forward to at the moment is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, ironically. But the thing is, when I look down the slate of Marvel and this whole, phase 5 and 6 leading into Kang, and I mean, I didn't find Kang interesting when it was in the Marvel comics. I don't find it interesting now. I have zero faith that they're going to do Fantastic Four right, and I have zero faith that they're going to do X-Men right. And quite frankly, maybe it's time to see what he's going to do with DC, because if anything, the sense you got from that announcement near the end, especially, was he's been a fan of DC Comics for a long time. He honors the character. At least he says he honors the characters. We could talk about how these executives talk and whether they're honest about it, but I have to believe James Gunn. With what he did with Suicide Squad, at least you knew he was a fan and that he understands these characters. The other thing is, it's no. Why don't you give your thought? My biggest takeaway is, I think there's more excitement here. Oh, okay. So the thing I meant to say was, you could tell he's a true comic book fan because he's emphasizing a lot of these side titles, these side characters, which is what comic book fans do. I don't know if that's good business sense. I don't know if that's good creative sense, but you can tell at least he likes reading comic books.
Only a few of the things that were announced were actually based on widely known properties like Superman, Batman. Right. And I would even say that, just the average person who knows who Batman is has no idea who Damian Wayne is.
Yep, I don't.
Yeah, which is Batman's son and one of the Robins. Okay. But
of which I would say Batman was married and had children.
Maybe had Damian Wayne out of wedlock. I don't know. Look, all right, let's go. How did we get here? I want to show this graphic real quick. This was the original pathway, the Snyderverse, as it were. Does it fill up the whole screen? Can you see? Oh, you can see it.
I think if you can enlarge it
a little bit. Should I zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, zoom in.
All right, I'm going to zoom in.
I'm going to pull the banner quickly.
Just a little bit here. Let me zoom in so you can see all this. Okay, maybe one more. All right, here we go. Can you see all that?
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, so let's get into it. This was the original plan through 2020 was to launch with the birth of Superman on Krypton in 2013 with the Man of Steel, leading into Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad in 2016. Then in 2017, Wonder Woman and Justice League Part 1. Then 2018, The Flash, and then Justice League. Then Aquaman and an untitled DC film. Untitled DC film. Could have been Batman, could have been something else. 2019 with Shazam, Justice League Part 2 in 2019, another untitled DC film. Then in 2020 with Cyborg and the Green Lantern Corps. Now, when I look at this original lineup, this was the Snyderverse, and this was announced, okay? This was the original, story that was to be told, and which would have led to a huge showdown with Darkseid, which I still, when I look at the Snyder Cut, I mean, God, there are moments there that are just just nerd heaven. Never thought in my wildest dreams that I would actually see Darkseid on screen. So, and of course, things went awry when the reaction to Batman v Superman was mixed. And originally,
I would say the same thing about Man of Steel. I'm not a fan of Man of Steel at all.
Go back and rewatch that movie. I think you'll change your mind.
I would.
It was shocking. Go back and rewatch Man of Steel.
Look, I'll say this: if it wasn't Superman, I would have enjoyed the movie a lot more. But I just didn't feel like that was a true Superman story.
I just think that it was a couple things. Problems I have with that film is that I thought that the violence at the end was a little too intense. I think that there are just some moments that felt a little too raw.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's my point. If you remove Superman and make him another superhero, I think you'd have no problem with the ending. But just by the fact that it was Superman, and that was my whole movie. That was my whole problem with the movie. This idea of an alien who the world doesn't trust because he's an alien. That was never a Superman story for me. I was not a DC reader either.
But I just want to remind people what the original vision was. This was scrapped. Then Joss Whedon came in and finished Justice League, which turned into just Justice League. There wasn't a part 1 and a part 2. They completely forgot that. Flash has just been sitting around forever. Aquaman came out and it was okay. The first Shazam came out and it was enjoyable. And of course, Cyborg and Green Lantern Corps never happened. These untitled films. I'm sure we'll learn what they are at some point. But now here's where we are. Let me show you what the lineup is. I have a graphic. I stole this graphic from Screen Rant. I'm sure they won't mind because I just mentioned Screen Rant. Here is James Gunn's DCU plan. 10 movies and TV shows starting in 2025. And he's calling it this DC Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters, starting with Superman Legacy. The only I believe, what did he mention? July 11th for Superman : Legacy. And by the way, all of these titles, they're all temporary. Not a single title was set in stone.
Set in stone, yeah. And by the way, July 11th, 2025.
2025.
Not 2024. So we've got 2 years before this happens.
Yeah, exactly. So The Brave and the Bold is going to be the Batman movie or Batman family movie. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, The Authority, which is based on a comic I've never read and was not aware of. Swamp Thing. They've done Swamp Thing before a couple times. Creature Commandos, which is apparently done. James Gunn said he wrote them all. And it already, I guess it's in production. Waller, the TV show about Amanda Waller, starring Viola Davis. Lanterns, which he described as a Green Lantern show, like buddy cops in space, kind of like True Detective, which he implied that show would kind of lead into larger things happening in the DC universe. Then a Booster Gold TV show, and which, if you're not familiar with the character, I'm familiar with Booster Gold. He's kind of funny, kind of a funny character. I could actually see that really working as a TV show. And Paradise Lost, which was described as like a female Game of Thrones on Themyscira. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly.
I think close enough. Yeah.
Close enough. But this is what we got. Now, there are a couple problems I have right off the bat. One was the presentation itself. I thought that, I've been going to San Diego Comic-Con for a long time, decades, since the early 90s, right? 89, I think, was the first time I went. And it wasn't until later, like in the early 2000s, they do these big presentations in Hall H. I mean, they did Hall H presentations, but it wasn't like a thing like, spending the night in a line on the beach to be able to get in. Now it's like this whole thing to be able to get into Hall H. And literally, when you're in that room, because I was in the room when they brought on like Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot were like in the audience. It was crazy. They like came from the sides and walked down, and here's the Justice League. I've been in the room when Marvel has announced their next slate of movies coming out over the next couple of years. They usually bring on talent. They'll show you a little teaser or a video that they only ever use one time in that room. It's not on extras on DVD. It's if you find it, it's because somebody got away with filming it in the room. It is an event. You get so excited for the dumbest thing that's being announced just because you're in that room. There's an excitement. They'll show logos. There's something prepared. And what I felt that was lacking was when James was going through this, one, I don't think he vetted. It just didn't seem vetted through a marketing department. He used too many descriptive words over and over again. I kind of felt bad for him. I don't think he was nervous, but he just kept saying fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. He said marvelous, which I kind of think was a dig at Marvel. Does anyone else think that? So this 5-minute video, he goes on and he announces that these are the projects, and this has all been pulled together. And I'm sure in James' head, he's been thinking about this his entire life, getting the opportunity to do this. But this was put together in 90 days. It's like, here's the slate. But I just feel that this was the wrong way to announce it. This should have been announced, maybe not even this year, but in 2024 at San Diego Comic-Con, they could have announced all these projects with logos, teasers, music, bringing out cast, and just announcing it on social media in kind of it just felt underwhelming. That was my impression watching the video, and I kind of felt bad for James in the sense of like, I don't know who he's getting advice from of how to roll this stuff out, but this was the wrong way to roll it out. So I think that the presentation itself was not great. And I'm not super excited about all these things. Where's a Wonder Woman movie? Where's Wonder Woman? Are we going to get the Holy Trinity?
Paradise Lost is about what you're gonna.
But it's
maybe that
TV
leads into
show.
Wonder Woman.
It's not a Wonder Woman TV show. It's just a show about where she came from.
Right, but from there can Wonder Woman be birthed, so to speak?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, that can happen.
Yeah,
So the second thing is the Henry Cavill thing.
Yeah.
You can't ignore that. I think that was a colossal mistake. They could have even cast another person to play Superman. You could have your young Superman. It could be from a different Earth, or it could be the adventures of Henry. You get Henry Cavill to play Superman, but he's an older Superman. With that sort of gray temples. And then, thinking back, have a different actor play him as a younger man. They could do a mix of that. I don't know why, with so much goodwill, and Henry Cavill is so beloved. I think that the presentation and the rollout was a mistake. And I think that that getting rid of Henry Cavill for whatever the problems were behind the scenes, I've never heard anything egregious about him. And he's truly beloved by fans. But what do you think? And we can go. And I'm asking the chat also. Please chat, people in the chat. I want to hear your comments. We'll go to
for
you
the 740 of you watching this. Chime in and tell us what you think. My feeling is there was no good way to do this. I don't think
really.
I mean, are you going to spend the money, rent out a hall, fill it up with people, and then do this, or you could just do it on the cheap? I think there was pressure from. My feeling is maybe there's pressure from social media that something needed to be said, and that there was just really no way of doing some kind of formal thing other than throw comic books in there. The thing about this list that strikes me is number 1 Superman, number 2 Batman, and then the next 8 are not Superman, not Batman. And that's why I say I think that's why he's coming at this from a comic book fan approach. He loves these titles and thinks that something good. It's a way to maybe broaden the audience, and if DC Comics ever comes back, if comic books ever become good again, maybe that would reignite this the industry. But I think they're more focused on TV and movies at this time.
I just think that was James Gunn handed a mandate. You have to do X number of TV shows and X number of movies over X period of time. So is this the first 2 years? So this will take us from 2025 to
remember Warner Brothers. I mean, they're starting fresh as a company, so to speak. I mean, their stocks are what the lowest it got last year was $8. That was Warner Brothers stocks. So something has to be done. Something has to reinvigorate the DC universe, so to speak. And this is it. And quite frankly, I feel like no matter who is in charge of it, who's ahead of it, we're always going to have complaints about it. We're always going to find something wrong with it. Some things will appeal and some things won't. And maybe we just need to accept that that's the nature of this thing, that we're trying to reach a broad audience and try to find as much overlap as you can, knowing that you can't have it. So there'll be things we don't want to see. There'll be things we do. And then regarding Henry Cavill, I tend to like people. I tend to be fairly optimistic and positive. And my feeling on that is, this is a bad time to revamp the entire thing. And unfortunately, I think Henry Cavill is the casualty in it. If you're going to restart Superman, you restart Superman, and that may mean, Henry Cavill is not going to be in Superman Legacy. And, that's, it's one of those tough calls that if, as fans, for us, it's easy to make, but for a guy who just got hired to restart everything, he's got to make some tough choices. And the only thing that I will say that counters that is, I got the sense that Jason Momoa is not done as Aquaman after this one.
Right, but there are no Aquaman movies after this, right? I mean, Aquaman 2 is coming out later this year. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I think I think DC, Warner Brothers, James Gunn is in a tough place here, and if someone just has to make a decision and say this is how we're going to proceed.
Right. Well, I'll just say this. A couple thoughts, and they're not all negative. I have a couple positive things to say. One, I think that the challenge for James Gunn is going to be taking legacy characters that are beloved, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and writing a story that's true to those characters. What we've seen James Gunn really good at is taking characters that you may be unfamiliar with if you're not a huge comic book nerd, and it doesn't matter because he will find a way to make you love them, right? Like none of us would be saying the words polka dot man, right? If David Desmalchin, who's going to be on the show, by the way, David Desmalchin is going to be on the Film Threat Livecast this Friday. We're interviewing David Desmalchin, the polka dot man. He's going to tell us about, he's in a new Stephen King movie that's coming out this summer. He's in Oppenheimer. He's got a lot of great projects going on. Big fan of David.
Unfortunately, he won't be in Dune 2.
He's not in Dune 2. His character, Piter de Vries, was dispensed with on accident by the tooth. Remember the tooth. Remember the tooth. But the thing is that that's his challenge. It's something we have not seen James Gunn do. We have a lot of preconceived notions about what we would like Superman to be. And I think that's part of why Zack Snyder's Man of Steel didn't quite work for a lot of people. But how do you make such an optimistic, positive character like Superman exist at a time that is so dark, at a time when cynicism is kind of the default setting for most people because of the time that we live in? And I think that if he can pull that off, if he can pull off that first movie and make you love a new Superman that isn't played by Henry Cavill, this whole thing could work.
Yeah.
And then same thing with Brave and the Bold. This is a vision of Batman we've never seen in a Batman with not just one Robin, but like what, 4? You've got Jason Todd, Damian Wayne, Dick Grayson, and I always forget one when I list them. What's the other one?
Wasn't there a girl? Is that the one you're talking about?
Well, there's Carrie Kelly, but that comes later. Okay. I always love Carrie Kelly Robin, which was awesome. But can he make that work? We've never seen a Batman like that. Supergirl. I mean, the Supergirl movie, when you look back on it, it's kind of cheesy, along with a TV show. And I'm not trying to disparage a show. It's not for me, but it's kind of a cheesy TV show. Can you make Supergirl a Supergirl movie that really works? Remains to be seen. And then the Authority and Creature Commandos are based on 2 properties that aren't widely known. I expect that those are going to be in the same vein as a Suicide Squad and a Guardians of the Galaxy. The Waller TV show could be really interesting just because Viola Davis, I think is an amazing actress. But
and it's a good character too.
Yeah, the thing is, so I'm negative on the Henry Cavill not being a part of it. On the what's the vision? The one thing that we all knew about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is it was leading to Avengers. So we had these you had your Thor movie, you had your Iron Man movie, you had your Iron Man 2, you had your Captain America First Avenger, and all leading to the Avengers. What is this leading to?
Well, definitely not Justice League, which is probably a good thing, quite frankly.
Maybe, but Chapter 1 is Gods and Monsters. Where is it leading to? Has the Justice League already existed? You have an older Batman and a younger, I guess Superman's supposed to be 25. Batman's got to be at least in his 30s, mid 30s at least. So have they already had the Justice League? What is the timeline? How does this all work? And how does this all connect?
Yeah.
For me,
I think you're bringing up something that I also thought immediately when James Gunn started talking about. This is ambitious. Very ambitious, especially in the idea that all 10 of these properties are going to exist in the same universe. The idea of the movies and the TVs all connecting. The fact that, actors doing the voices on the TV shows will be in the movies as well. So, again, I think that's why people are cautiously excited about this. But it's like a house of cards. the one misstep and it all crumbles.
If that first Superman movie isn't good,
James Gunn.
Yeah, and he's
see, that's when you cut bait and
well, it wouldn't be the first time. This is the third kind of reorder or reboot, soft reboot of the DC cinematic universe. It started with Zack Snyder, then Joss Whedon came in to kind of quote fix it. It was rudderless, and now you have James Gunn. Now, here's the thing. I am a huge fan of James Gunn. NGL, not gonna lie. I am a fan of James Gunn. And you should go back and see a movie that he made, an indie movie starring Rainn Wilson called Super. That was the movie that got him the job on Guardians of the Galaxy. It was that, of course, in a very a detailed presentation. They call it a lookbook. You can call it a deck, whatever it is. But he put together a whole presentation for Marvel, and they gave this guy who'd done a bunch of small indie movies that were some very good movies, Romeo and Juliet, Slither, among others, and you just, that was Marvel's thing. They would take an indie film director, have them direct the acting scenes, and then you've got, putting together the action scenes are kind of done by Marvel Studios. It's a formula that has worked. I think that James Gunn learned a lot. And the one thing you can't count out James Gunn on is he was an executive producer on Endgame and Infinity War, arguably two of the best films to come out, the top tier Marvel movies. He was involved as one of the architects of putting together the overall storyline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And since his exit, and he's kind of sunsetting his involvement in Guardians of the Galaxy, I think it's a good thing. From what I'm hearing about it, I hear Guardians is amazing. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So we'll see. I mean, he is the X factor in this, but I just think that the way it was presented, look, there's not a week that goes by that fire James Gunn doesn't trend. And I don't know. Are they overreacting by showing too much too soon? And you're not showing really anything other than announcements. The way it was announced, I think, was a mistake. I think you needed to wait and just tell people to be patient and go away and maybe not post on social media. Like that can,
I mean, to his credit, he's engaging fans, which is a mixed bag, and the other thing is, okay, fire James Gunn. So who? So
what? Then who? I would ask you, who other than James Gunn, a guy that legit reads and knows the comics and has been reading them since he was a kid. You should read a novel that James Gunn wrote called The Toy Collector. And I have it on a shelf here somewhere, The Toy Collector, and you will learn what a huge nerd this guy is. I mean, legit nerd cred. And what's sad is James Gunn could not get a job working for Marvel now based on their rules, because knowing the comics too well, that's a red flag for us. That's a red flag, knowing the comics too well. So the other thing, the last thing I have to say before I go to your comments, and we'll respond to those, is this idea that the animated shows, the TV shows, and the movies all have to be one story being told. I don't know that you need to do that. And I mean, if this is the vision, how could something like a Batman animated series by Bruce Timm and all the amazing creative people who worked during that period in '92 when the series launched, and it launched at the same year that Batman Returns came out. Tim Burton's Batman Returns, completely different kind of movie, much more adult in nature. The animated series, I believe, served it was good enough for kids to watch, but worked on an adult level, that kind of retro future look. And I love it. Two different visions of a thing can coexist and be separate universes. So this idea that everything connects, I don't know. That feels like, to me, it feels like a branding thing that's left over from Disney. That's a Disney thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I call it ambitious. And I think, and that's why I describe it as that House of Cards.
Yeah.
And you just brought up something that I hadn't even thought about, but they're leaving a lot of money on the table, by not doing a kids animated show.
Yeah, I mean, look, I knew that Teen Titans Go, that's not for me. Yeah. It's not for me. I saw the movie Teen Titans Go.
That's for kids.
It's for kids. And you know what? That's completely fine. No one thinks that what happened in Teen Titans Go is canon. You know, where audiences are smart enough to understand there's a difference. In addition to these things happening, the Batman 2 is happening, which is not part of this DC universe.
And the
then
Joker.
And the Joker 2, which I actually think that they should just connect the Joker, because age-wise, it would be great to connect the Batman and
like an old man Logan type thing.
No, it'd be not that. Just have it connect. Have those things. I think it would be awesome if they did that. Just call it Batman versus the Joker, or the other way around. Make it a 2-part movie. The first part's called Batman versus the Joker. The second part is called Joker versus the Batman. But also, I'm not super sold on these titles. The Brave and the Bold is like a team up. It's like a team up comic that not a lot of people know. Which is
that the
fun.
Grant Morrison one, or?
I know he wrote a lot of those stories.
Yeah.
So, and Superman Legacy seems to be based on a Grant Morrison story as well. Okay.
Yeah.
But
by the way, we have a hey, thank you everyone for the super chats. We have a lot of them, and we should get to them.
We're going to get to the super chats right now. So my apologies on being a little long-winded. I just wanted to say, I have a mixed reaction to all of this. And unfortunately, I just feel the way that this was announced is actually may harm it.
But real quick, are you really more excited for what Marvel's going to put out compared to
I don't care about Marvel anymore. I really, other than Guardians 3, which James Gunn is involved in, I'm not really that excited. Look, Alan, you're the one that saw the Marvels. You saw the Marvels trailer.
I saw the clip of the Marvels.
And what did you think?
It's a teen girls movie. It's a movie for teen girls.
I'll see it first day.
Yeah, because that's our job. That's why,
to see the Marvels. Okay, super chats here. Verbal Riot Show. Our good friend Dante James for 10. Thank you so much. Stop shilling, Alan. Joking. What's up, lads?
Just shilling.
Dante, you should be here. Text me if you're able to join. I know you're busy during the day, but I always love to have you. Dante James is going to be joining us on our Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania stream. We may do it at a special day and time because Alan and I are seeing the movie on Monday, February 13th. We may do a morning stream the very next day at 9 a.m.
That's when the embargo lifts.
Yeah, we got to check that, but we will do a stream immediately, and Dante is joining us. Dante is going to be seeing the movie with us. Let me get to all of these, and my apologies for being behind here. MK Solid 82 for $4.99. Can Gunn at least make Lois Lane a hot brunette again? Let them cast Megan Fox or something. Yeah.
I'm more interested in Lois Lane.
Yeah, Lois Lane. There's going to be a Lois Lane, and Lois Lane will be I can't say. I'm not going to say what's in my head right now. Spade 2187 for $1.99. Do you think it's going to have Marvel humor?
James Gunn humor.
Yeah, some of it will. And I think, look, let's look. Who is better at writing jokes in superhero movies? James Gunn or Taika Waititi? I vote James Gunn. I'm biased. But I think that this is new territory for James being an executive, and kudos to him for. And you can read other YouTube channels have talked all the different stories. Him responding to the Zachary Levi quote tweet and everything else. Like I feel like James just speaks his mind and doesn't care, and I love that. I love that about him. So yeah, it's going to definitely have Marvel humor. Bill S. Preston Esquire says Lois Lane played by Thomas Chalamet. Let's see here. Kino Reviews for 2 says the whole lineup feels like Marvel Stage 4. It does only because there's so many things that are kind of like, wait, what? Or like super groups like Creature Commandos and The Authority.
Yeah.
So it does
Marvel
have
Phase 4 should have worked. I mean, even with the titles they announced, it should have worked.
We'll see.
It's just bad movies. That's all.
Okay. moving on. The Waltman 4 for $4.99. Then there was the press conference prior to the announcement, along with Elseworlds movies with the Batman 2 and Joker 2. Yeah. I hope they actually continue the Elseworlds thing. I actually hope they continue it.
Yeah.
But I mean
it's a convenient way to, set the movies already in production. But
right. But I don't know. Could 2 Batman movies come out in the same year?
Not in the same year. No.
That would be strange. But I like the ideas of Elseworlds. I have bought Elseworlds comic books. There's even like a Star Wars Elseworlds comic. I love those kind of things. Spade 2187 for $1.99. They should have stuck with Snyderverse. At the end of the day, I actually agree with that. I think that, with all due respect to James Gunn, who knows? James Gunn may have directed a movie within the Snyderverse. Leading up to Darkseid, a showdown with Darkseid, and all these other heroes being introduced, like I wasn't 100% sold until I saw which I just got in 4K, the Snyder Cut. God, the Snyder Cut. Yes, it's too long. Okay. But could you imagine if that came out in 2017 and it was 3 hours long? You would have lost it. There's a way. There's a solid 3-hour cut of that movie, maybe even 2 hours. It'd be rough, but you could cut that down. And my God, it would have been.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong. No, I disagree.
I know you're wrong. I mean, let's keep going, but you're wrong.
Fine. Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Swagga House Comics and Games for $4.99. Seems like they had to rush the announcement to create buzz for the 4 films they have this year. If those bomb, Gunn/WB are going to have money problems. Yeah, the announcement seemed rushed.
Yeah.
And even James Gunn's presentation, like, we're just going to use stills from comics. We're not even going to have prepare a logo, even a DC Universe logo, something like. All these are decisions that have to be made. And it just felt like they're almost an afterthought. Well, I guess I have to give a speech about these things. And I'm sure he had a rough outline, but it didn't seem like James Gunn was reading anything. And he's a guy that he doesn't need anyone to write for him. He can speak from the heart. But I'm sure he had an outline of what he wanted to say. And I don't know. That was the big reveal. None of this matters if the Superman and the Batman movie are great. People are just going to be excited for what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely am not excited for anything Marvel.
I mean, Superman Legacy has to be a perfect movie, essentially.
Yeah. Joel Silver wanted a 3D Swamp Thing back in 2009, says MK Solid 82 for $1.99. Yeah, that would be cool. I like the Stephen Bissett, Alan Moore run of Swamp Thing back in the 80s. Check that out. And there have been other great runs as well. Kino Reviews for $5. Shout out to Sell Zack Snyder Justice League to Netflix. Hashtag Sell Snyderverse to Netflix might be the only way to respectfully conclude this modern day epic. Kino Reviews, thank you for your super chat and your support. Here's what I would like to see them do. I would like to see a giant coffee table book like Taschen puts out, but it's of all the unused artwork, all the ideas, the script outlines for all the stories, how they connected. Just make it an expensive coffee table book. And this was the vision. Maybe even include music or a Zack Snyder video. This could actually make, what this could actually make, Kino Reviews? Might make a good documentary. This might make a really interesting documentary. Yeah. I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of it. I'm sure someone else is already working on it, but I'm already weighing other documentary film projects after Attack of the Doc comes out. I want to do something pop culture related. I've got 2 or 3 things I'm throwing around. Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen because WB is not going to want to dilute their brand. They're already doing 2 different Batmans. They're not going to have a third Batman hanging out there on Netflix. If anything, Netflix needs to do something else. They need to they're not going to pair up with Marvel. And Marvel, the sad thing about Marvel is they can't do anything that's for adults. Here's the thing that I'm also encouraged by. Swamp Thing will be an R-rated movie, I predict. And The Authority may in fact be an R-rated film. And of course, TV Waller could be more adult. This is why I'm more excited about DC than Marvel at this point, because DC has the option to go more adult, to be more.
I'm also saying, again, the kids market is wide open,
right?
And I'm just surprised they don't have anything focused for the younger set.
Yeah, yes, there's no Teen Titans Go.
Yeah,
that ties in.
The thing is, there's so much money to be made in kids programming.
John Orchard for 10 says there needs to be a hard stop. No more origin stories. How about just a standalone story? James Bond movies used to be about a case that could stand alone. John Orchard, I agree with you, but disagree on this. I actually like an origin story, but here's the thing. Hear me out here. The way that they used to do it in like the first 50 issues of the Fantastic Four is every other issue, for the first 10 issues, almost every issue, they retold the origin of the Fantastic Four in a flashback that would usually last a page, 2 pages, or even just a panel. You could retell the origin in the mind's eye of Clark Kent and have him think about memories of him first coming to Earth, or when he first happened upon, the capsule that he arrived in, which had, information related to, his ancestry. Like here's the thing, don't make the entire movie an origin story. But I think if you're going to reintroduce these characters, tell us a little bit about their version of their origin story. Just don't make the whole movie about it. Does that make sense? So you could spend 5 minutes of the movie retelling the origin of the characters without making the entire movie an origin movie, because anyone that knows the origin of Batman and Superman. And to me,
I don't think The Brave and the Bold will have an origin story in it.
No, but I do think it'll have an origin story maybe for Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
And you'll get more. I mean, we haven't seen we haven't seen Nightwing in a movie. Never seen it.
Yeah.
So
Supergirl is definitely an origin story.
Something, because I think it relates to her character. So I think what you do is you use origins sparingly. That just a thought, because it worked in comics. It's a very comic book device. So that's my take on that, John. Bionic Belly Button. Now there's a name I have not heard in a long time. Who's also a member. Thank you, Bionic Belly Button. I think they are trying to paint Cavill as difficult to work with, which is really just him caring about the source material. They're trying to make Cavill look bad to justify not using him, in my opinion. I mean, if that's true, it's really sad. I think this is a guy that was made in a lab to play Superman. I mean, he tried out for the Bryan Singer Superman. So this is someone it's been top of mind for him for a long time. And nice mask, Bionic Belly Button. Let's see. Oh, shoot. I missed a super chat. I unstarred it. Can you get that one?
Oh, I have no idea which one.
Oh, shoot. I unstarred a super chat that came much earlier. Okay. I'm clicking. I'm doing too many buttons at once here. We don't have a producer helping us out today. Elliot Cecil for $4.99. I'm a film student and I'm wanting to dip my toe into directing, screenwriting. Where do I start and how do I eventually get my name out? I am going to save that question for later. We're going to stick focused on James Gunn here. Kino Reviews for 5 says the Robin suit in Batman v Superman should be Damian Wayne's to tie into the Snyderverse. That would be interesting because they only showed Ben Affleck Batman looking at Robin. I mean, that's right out of The Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller. It could be interesting. That could be interesting if they did that. The whole idea is that the Joker is the one who killed Robin. So there you go. Derek Rosenfeld for 5 says, fellas, this is a shout out request. February 27th is the 25th anniversary of Dark City, the Shawshank of all sci-fi films. Thoughts or comments? Dark City is a modern classic, and I am sure that they'll be doing a screening of it. They've been doing a lot of these, what do they call those? Fathom events screenings. Yeah. I'll bet that the Frida Cinema will be doing something.
I'm pretty sure they'll be doing something about it.
That is it's a classic. Yeah, so shout out for that. Gus Webb for 2. Am I the only one who loves The Last of Us Part 2? We'll get to that. We don't. I gotta. We'll get
We're
to
talking
that.
about the video game, by the way.
Elliot Cecil for $4.99. Oh, wait, we're gonna get to
You got
that
that
later. Pilgrim Media for 2. The Waller and Supergirl are the woke garbage. Yeah, I mean,
Potentially.
we'll see. Potentially. I mean,
the thing about Waller is she's always been bad. There was no indication that she was ever gonna have a woke moment or a moment of realization that everything she's been doing is wrong.
yeah, I don't think the character cares.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. MK Solid 82 for $1.99 says, I spelled Lois Lane wrong and Alan owned me. Yes, he did.
All in fun.
I was a bear for $4.99 says, only people who complain about origin stories are hardcore fans. Origin stories are pivotal to draw in casual viewers. They're necessary. I do think so. I kind of get tired of like, they'll introduce a character and it's like, I don't even know what their powers are. If it's a character that's unfamiliar to me, at least they used to do it in the Fantastic Four comics. They'd go and they'd retell the origin. It was usually a page. And a lot of it was because a lot of people didn't know who the Fantastic Four were. Really. I mean, Marvel was not Marvel in 1961. It took a couple years, but boy, they became successful fairly quickly. But yeah, I do think at least a referencing the origin. There's a little bit of that with Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad, which I quite enjoyed. Can't wait to talk to David. We're going to get David's opinion on this. I think that David Desmalchin will play a new character that has not been announced. I'm going to guess that David is he's such a versatile actor. So get ready for your David Desmalchin questions for Friday. The Jumper for $4.99. The Authority, Creature Commandos, Paradise Lost. Half this slate sounds like the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy 2.0. I think that's what a lot of people are commenting on, that it just seems like more of what we've seen James Gunn do, but do very well. And I think that part of the beauty of, I think, the early Marvel films is they were all different types of movies.
Yeah, I got to duck out for a second.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
See you, Alan. Or Alan's ducking out for a second. All right, we'll see what's up with that. But yeah, I think that that's part of what people are reacting to, are in particular Creature Commandos and the Authority. Not a lot of people are familiar with those. I wasn't, so it's, it's a deep cut coming from James Gunn. But look, Guardians of the Galaxy, just look at the success of that. I think that I think from what I'm hearing about the third film could be very good. There's a super chat that I missed and I am going to try and find it. So please be patient with me for a second. Keep the comments coming. Oh my God, the chat is on fire here. So love it. Love it. Thank you everyone for your support. Look, subscribe to the channel. Go to shop.filmthreat.com if you want. We've got some new Film Threat merch in there, new Film Threat t-shirts that have hit. We have a Tron inspired shirt. It might be Tron. I don't know. Maybe it's not Tron. I have no idea. But check that out. And Alan will be back. Just a second here. I'm pivoting, as it were. And Gus Webb, when you said, am I the only one who loves Last of Us Part 2? I assume you're talking about the video game. I have not played it. I am, several hours into the first Last of Us. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I hear that what happens that upsets people in Last of Us Part 2 happens at the very beginning. So I may, in fact, play Last of Us Part 2. I may play.
I'm back.
You're back. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the super chat that I missed. I have to keep going back because I missed it. It's from a way back. Here we go. Killian Murphy said Nolan gave the cast copies of relevant comic books to read before they filmed Batman Begins. That's why Nolan's the GOAT, says Steven that way for $4.99. Well, first of all, thank you, Steven, for that. I really appreciate it. That's great. No, I'm a big fan of Nolan. Big fan of Nolan. He makes these big movies, but he shoots them sort of indie style. He has a close-knit crew, and a lot of what I love also about Nolan, I'm sure maybe some of you know about this, when there are secrets in the movie, he wants to make sure that the secrets don't get out. He will give people pieces of the script that are incorrect. So there may be an exchange between two characters, but there's off-screen dialogue that comes later, and it's so spoilers do not leak out about the film. And a lot of what is known, the actual facts of a film, or what actually happens on screen, is kept from mostly the entire crew. He has like this sort of tight-knit group of people that they're the only ones that know everything. And if you don't need to know, you will not know. Like, for example, the exchange with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, where it's revealed that he's Robin, or his name is Robin. Those were not the words spoken on set. I love that about Nolan. I am a huge fan. Watch this. Go back and rewatch Memento. Watch his first feature Following, which played the Slam Dance Film Festival. Check it out. I'm gonna go to. Look, I care about all the chat. Just we're getting a lot of super chats.
Yeah, we're a little overwhelmed with super chats at the moment.
Overwhelmed with super chats. I think people really care about this topic. We may not get to. We have a guest coming on in about 30 minutes. I don't think we're going to get to Knock at the Cabin. We're going to review it on Friday anyways. We'll talk about Knock at the Cabin, and we'll talk about Last of Us Part 3 on Friday. I really loved this episode of Last of Us Episode 3. I thought it was great. I'll tell you why I liked it later, but there's just too many chat questions and comments. This is going to be our only topic for the rest of the show. And we've got a special guest coming on around 2:50. We have the director, Steve Balderson, Alchemy of the Spirit. Check out the trailer for that film, and it is out. I believe it's out now. So we're going to talk to the director in about 30 minutes here on the show. I'm going to stick with super chats here. We're going to get to your other questions because I talk fast. The Jumper says the authority. Okay. We already got to that.
I might have started stuff that you did while I was
Mr. Tickle Trunk says everyone needs to remember that some of what is announced won't even make it. And this is not even the entire phase 1. And 2025 is far away. I do think there will be changes. Dream Prophet for $4.99 says, why announce a slate so early? With 3 movies to be released, what if the movies are big hits? What do they have to gain from announcing so far ahead? That puzzled me as well. I mean, I just thought it was a little curious. Why would you announce so soon? 2 years from now, we're announcing that a Superman movie will be out in July. So that's actually 2.5 years away.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's to take the heat off of James Gunn.
Really?
So he doesn't have to answer the question of, well, what do you have planned for the next 2 years?
I think first of all, I love James on social media. He's done a lot of AMAs, ask me anything. I think he's brutally honest. I think he doesn't care. And I think that, I want him to succeed. At the end of the day, I want him to succeed, but announcing so early. And I think this is,
again, I don't know. I think it's a no-win situation. He could have kept mum for 2 years, or he could have said something. Either option was going to be bad.
Okay. Elliot Cecil for $4.99 says, with the Elseworlds universe being its own thing, they could make a Batman Beyond movie and then and move into the DCU if they do a World's End mashup. And he said meant Future's End, not Worlds. They could do Batman Beyond. I think that would be awesome. Mm-hmm. And Elliot, I'm gonna you know what? I'm gonna save your other super chat for when we have our special guest on, because I'll get his input as well. Alan sounds very disinterested as someone who's claiming to be interested in DC over Marvel.
I'm just saying it's better than what Marvel's put in that.
It is better. I think it's better.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have no emotional attachment to any of these titles, so it sounds good. sounds exciting. Superman Legacy, it better be a perfect movie. Otherwise, we're gonna be making more of these videos.
That was from Leon of the New Geeks. Andrew Simmons says Henry Cavill in Kingdom Come. Could not agree more.
That
Brock
could be a nice
Samsonite.
role.
This is their last ditch effort. Hail Mary pass. I hate to agree with you, but I actually do agree with you that it's like, this is like, go for it. Get a Superman movie made. I think that James Gunn may have been given a mandate of, you have to do X number of movies and then do TV show tie-ins. And then he sort of filled those slots with things that interested him. So we'll see. Leon of the New Geeks. Yeah, Chris, it was just a dude talking about things, very uneventful and the complete opposite of what their competition does. Yeah, I think I think he should have said, please be patient. We'll be making announcements at San Diego Comic-Con. And then he could have prepared. He could have even introduced some cast people. I mean, look, I've been at some of these Hall H things and people are losing their minds and screaming just to get a poster on the way out with a logo on it that they're going to throw away later. But he really could have pumped people up. It would have been a great moment. So CD Stein 69 says, going to be honest, they sound intriguing, but we'll reserve judgment, good or bad, till we get casting and directors. It wasn't stated by Gunn, but heard the Earth 2 Superman movie is still moving ahead. Yeah, I heard that.
Yep.
Toxic Waltz NA, you just know Chris Pratt is going to be Booster Gold. Possibly. Spidey Sensei 72 says the kids who love screaming woke at everything will love the Authority. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Patrick Lemire, I am worried Superman will be cast to an actor that is built like Spider-Man. That is entirely possible.
Timothy Chalamet, there's our Superman.
Right. JWT 6577 for 5 says Gunn's plan is like booking another trip on the Titanic after it hit the iceberg. Zaslav, please just shut it all down. No, I don't want. No, please don't shut it down. More. I want more. But I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be tired of superhero stuff. Like, one, I'm like, I'll never see a great Fantastic Four movie in my lifetime. I'll never see anything as good as issues like, what is it, 48, 49, 50? I always forget the first appearance of the Silver Surfer and Galactus. That story, it's a 3-issue story. It is one of the greatest stories. I mean, I remember reading it going, I'll never see a movie as good as this. So we'll see. James Mangold has been hired as the director of Swamp Thing. Is that true? Yash Srivastava? Look it up. Confirmation. If it's on the internet, it's true. If it's in the chat, I may question. My Kingdom for a Film. Alan, I felt the same way when Man of Steel came out. Then I rewatched it years later, and I appreciate it more now. It's better the second time around. My Kingdom for a Film, I agree. I will revisit that movie often. The action scenes, it was just way ahead. Like what Zack Snyder had in his head with this is, yeah.
By the way, Hollywood Reporter and Variety are reporting that James Mangold is in talks to direct Swamp Thing.
There we go. Breaking news. Patrick Lemire, I am probably in the minority, but universes are a problem. Now DC are pulling the animated DC into the DCEU and saying voice actor and film actor will be the same. Big mistake. I think it's a mistake for this reason. One, I guarantee that the film actors that are on screen won't be doing all of the voices. I know for a fact that other people do voices that are what they call sound-alikes. My good friend John Bailey, the voice of Honest Trailers, does the voice of Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan Reynolds freely lets people know, yeah, that's John Bailey.
Yeah, I believe they've done videos together.
Yeah, they've done videos together. So while they may be in the spirit of, and what does that say to the voice actors who do the voice actor performance? I mean, what does this say to people like Kevin Conroy, who defined Batman's voice in the animated series and in video games? I mean, it's just, I think you're lessening the contribution of the voice talent and what they bring. Okay, so I am not. I criticize it. I don't think that everything needs to cross over and connect. I just don't think it does. It feels too Disney. It feels too corporate to me. Murdoch 86, who's a member, who's responding to Lord Thought, says, "Is there a favorite comic storyline of yours you'd love to see adapted to live action?" Huh. I'd love to see The Dark Knight Returns. I'd love to see The Dark Knight Returns. I would love to see, there's an Alan Moore Superman story that all takes place in Clark Kent's head, where he's basically in a comatose state. That was amazing. I'd actually, okay, if it's any comic, no one's heard of this comic. And I even surprised Gary Beekler from Nerdrotic never knew about this comic. And it's a comic book that was put out by Marvel called Strike Force Muraturi. And it's a brilliant comic book. You can probably pick up the whole run. It's set in the future, and Earth is invaded by aliens, and they are killing everyone on Earth. It is a galactic war of aliens invading Earth and humans are losing. There's a special program that they bring on volunteers, and they give them a serum where they develop superpowers, because as Earth's weaponry is nothing against these alien invaders, they put their faith in these superheroes. But it's a Faustian bargain. If you sign up for this program, you're going to live less than a year, and no clue as to when you may pass away or die. So it focuses on the second group of people going through this process. They don't know what their powers are going to be, and they get these powers, but the original Strike Force Muraturi became legendary because they won the first battles against these alien invaders. So it's got sort of X-Men elements to it. It's tragic. It's about real heroism and self-sacrifice. The people signing up for this program have families, but they'll do anything to save the planet from these alien invaders. And it's a great comic book. So, and it's also just got this tragic, like, hanging over them. Like, they're willing to sacrifice their lives, knowing they're going to get superpowers for a brief period of time, only to fight back against these invaders. So it focuses on different groups of people who develop these powers. It's fantastic. Strike Force Muraturi. And it was a standalone comic outside of the Marvel universe. It was just, set in the future. Really great book. My Kingdom for a Film. See, now I'm upset. Marvel may hear about this.
Yeah, and destroy it.
And then destroy that.
I think that's what Disney does. It's like, what do boys like? What are the toys that the boys played with?
And then they're just going to destroy it.
Yeah, let's ruin it. Let's turn all their favorite characters into ladies and whatever.
Yeah. My Kingdom for a Film. I don't understand why Cavill seems to get the short end of the stick. Still don't agree with their Superman direction. He will have to prove himself for sure. It seems like anyone who gets that role is cursed. Look what happened to George Reeves. Look what happened to Christopher Reeve. Look what happened to, look what happened to Henry Cavill. It just seems like anyone that gets that role, Superman, they get typecast, or it's just really, I don't know that any actor who's played Superman has had then gone on to I think Henry Cavill will. Henry Cavill may end up having the last laugh and the best result.
Yeah, or they may end up like Brandon Roth and just disappear.
Yeah. Nerdvana says, I only care about Brave and the Bold, Superman Legacy, and Supergirl. I'm kind of in the same mindset. I don't want to have to watch a TV show to get what's going on.
But I mean, that's the momentum that started the MCU. Iron Man, Thor, Captain America just created some momentum to get excited about what came afterwards.
Yeah. Shuxy says, I cannot wait for the Marvel's movies.
Yeah.
Well, can you? I think you're going to have to. John Orchard for 5 says, will the villain be named Black Flag or Raid? Yeah, I saw all of them. I also saw Tommy at a drive-in. Oh, that's great. I just saw Tommy, and I used to just go to midnight movies on the weekends when I first got a car No, I got a lot of guys my age when I was a teenager back then. They wanted to get a car because they want to go on dates with girls. I wanted to go to see movies all weekend. And I'm pretty much the same now. So there you go. Solomon Thornton says, yes, Marvel is desperate and it's sad. Such cool villains, and I don't know if the MCU has the ability of doing them justice. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Elk 3 for $1.99. What does legacy mean in Superman Legacy? We were just talking about that. Legacy to me means an ending. How do you want to leave your legacy? What is your legacy that you'd like to leave behind? It's something you leave behind after you've moved on. You've left a legacy. And that kind of tells me that, will this be sort of a Superman leaving behind his legacy? Is it about Superman's son? What do we know about it?
I mean, the impression I got was it was an existing series that the story's been told in comics.
Well, it was kind of told in a Garth Ennis story, in a way. But look, all these movies, what they do is they borrow material from the best, and that's what Christopher Nolan did. He kind of borrowed ideas from a bunch of even previous Batman films, other Batman stories, in comic books, and James Gunn has the luxury of doing that. And my guess is it'll be an amalgam of previous work. So, yeah, I for one am really excited for Superman Legacy. With the I think that's like, if I have to pick the three, actually it's Superman and Brave and the Bold. But that's the only one that's got me excited because I want to see how are you going to redo Superman. All right, more comments here. More comments. Wait, was there a super chat that I missed? I'm so sorry, folks.
You want me to? I guess they asked Saffron and Gunn what Superman Legacy was. I'm reading IGN here. So Saffron said it focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Superman represents truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. Gunn added, we want to take it away from good guys versus bad guys. And there's all sort of really, really almost saintly people. Superman is among them. There's really terrible villains like Gorilla Grodd and Joker. And then there's everybody in between. And there's also the shades of gray in different types of storytelling, which will allow us to tell complex stories. So I'm reading that from IGN.
I don't
from
know,
their press conference. Yeah. I
keep getting in like, all right.
Yeah.
Patrick Lemire says it was a typo. The real title is Superman Lego City. It's a crossover.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think what they're getting at is they're moving Superman back to this idea of truth, justice, and the American way, which Saffron said.
I'm so glad that instead of this and a better tomorrow, no, the American way. And I'm talking about the American way in the sense of like the ideal that America aspires to be, not what America is, which is a slowly seeping into authoritarianism.
I mean, I think it's more of a positive take on where Zack Snyder had taken it, which is what I kind of wanted from Man of Steel.
Right. Let's get to there's more super chats here. Michael Woodall for 10. This channel is the best on YouTube. Informative and fun. What more can I ask for? I go back to your G4 days and really enjoy your work, says Michael Woodall. Thank you for that. You and Alan make a great team. Thanks for all you guys do. Well, thank you for that. That is a kind comment. Yeah, it's like you could be Superman because you're nice in a world where most people are cruel. Just bought a paperback of the first 13 issues of Strikeforce Muraturi. Looking forward to reading it, says Murdoch 86 for 5. Okay, Murdoch 86. After you read it, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, the reason that I remember it is because it's the first issue of a comic where I read the first, didn't know anything about it, read the first issue, and was hooked from the first issue. It kind of gets a little ridiculous later, like I really think it should have just been a mini series, but the concept and the story itself is so good. It's such strong concept. That yeah, it's I didn't know there was a collected paperback. I think I still have the actual, bagged and boarded comics, but if there's a paperback of it, I'm going to look on Amazon and see. I have to now because Strike Force Muraturi is on there. Oh my God. If it is, that is cool. Strike Force Muraturi Omnibus that exists. It's a thing. Volume 1.
How much is it?
It's like $20.
Okay.
It's on Kindle. God, that's awesome. Wow. Okay, love it. Wow, oh, that's great. I'm so glad that it's just, that it stood the test of time. Some comic books get lost. That one is just one that stuck with me because from the first issue, it's just action. You're just thrust right in. So thank you, Murdoch, for that comment. After you get it and read it, or at least read the first couple issues, please come back on the channel and just let us know what you thought. Patrick Lemire says Superman Lego City, voiced by Henry Cavill, would be mega. That's great. Chat, we do have a special guest coming on momentarily, but I appreciate you all here. We got like about 20 plus minutes of the show. I want to look up. Wait, I have to. Did you have any thoughts on Last of Us episode 3? I don't know if we want to necessarily be doing, Alan, what were your, I would have to do a reset. I'd have to.
Okay.
Are we going to pivot? I just think we just keep talking this because I think this is what most people want to discuss.
I mean, when is he coming? Is it
in like 10 minutes?
In 10 minutes, okay. I mean, we could do Last of Us for 10 minutes, I guess.
Do people want to hear about Last of Us or keep talking James Gunn and DC? DC or Last? Post in the chat. We're going to go with just eyeballing what you guys want.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, for me, it was weird seeing The Last of Us after everything basically got leaked, because I didn't see it on Sunday. I saw it last night, this morning.
Let's look in the chat. What do people want to?
DC last, DC last, DC last of DC.
It's kind of mixed. It's kind of mixed. God, well, look, let's just do a quick, and if we have time, we'll talk about it on Friday. I really loved this episode of Last of Us. I think it showed the characters of Bill and Frank. I love Nick Offerman. I read his autobiography, but I love, I don't know. I love this episode. I thought it showed an aspect of a post-apocalyptic world we don't ever see, which is how do you remain hopeful in the face of despair? Mm-hmm. Where do you find meaning and purpose? And this show, and here's the problem I have. Yeah, okay, we'll talk RRR. People are saying RRR now. No, I love it.
I have to say this. When I ultimately play the game, I can't wait to play this part of the game.
Were you able to download it?
No, I haven't. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I want to play. I want to play the Bill and Frank story on the video game.
Yeah. And Kevin Vilkin, yes, Knock at the Cabin has been deferred. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it on Friday. It's just, when something big happens, like James Gunn's DC Universe announcement, we gotta pivot to that. We gotta pivot. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. But yeah, no, I really liked episode 3, but here's the problem. I really like that episode. That should have been the 10th episode, or it should have been later. The fact that they're already going off the big storyline of Ellie and Joel, like already on the 3rd episode, seems a little too soon. So I thought that was, I just think it's like too soon to divert to other characters. I like how
it's weird because I suppose the point of this episode was Joel and Ellie get a car, and I guess this is the part of the video game where it appears, and so that's why it's appearing in episode 3 as opposed to later.
Some people are saying the episode is so filler. It did feel like a filler episode that would come later in a series. It just felt like that.
Well, it is also the story. It's one and done. I mean, there's
right. It's going to be one and done for sure. So
yeah.
A few more comments here. We have a special guest that's going to be joining us shortly. He's in our digital green room now. Director Steve Balderson is going to be joining us momentarily as we pivot from this, as I'm fond of saying, pivot. Matt Hunter says, the American way is considered racist now. When you hear the American way, they have been trained to hear colonialism, racism, slavery. It's sad to say, but yes, this is the unfortunately, there are some people who feel that way. You know, it is what it is. But there we are. Anyways, when it comes to Last of Us episode 3, the short version is really love the episode. Felt like a filler episode. It's still a great episode, but a little too soon for this episode to appear in the series. Alan, what else do you have to say?
Felt like the love story was rushed.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like we're just going to tell this love story. We're going to rush it. And because of the nature of it, that you should fully fall in love with these two and say that this is the greatest episode ever. It was a good episode. I enjoyed it. Appreciated the love story, but it just, if you really wanted us to really embrace Bill and Frank, it had to be stretched out over 2 to 3 episodes. And I will say, when we ultimately get to Knock at the Wood, I mean, to me, the relationship between those fathers.
Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah, Knock at the Cabin. Sorry. Yeah. Knock in the Cabin. No, Knock in the Woods. Knock in the Woods. That relationship, that love story there, I felt was much more powerful because you had a chance to see it grow and develop and understand the nature of that relationship. And I just felt like this was kind of like, oh, well, this is a great time to tell a gay love story. So let's just do it. And I felt like it was rushed.
I just felt like it worked, and I'm grateful. How would you define exploitation, Alan?
Exploitation? Gratuitous. Like that's a mispronunciation of an actual word that I meant to say. It is gratuitousness. Gratuitousness. Right. I put a D in there. How is this a word? New word.
Elliot Cecil's being very patient. I want to save his super chat because I want Steve to respond to that. Let's pivot here as we get ready. We're gonna get ready. We're gonna pivot. All right, let's bring on Steve Balderson. He is the director of Alchemy of the Spirit. It is out now. I think it's out now on video on demand. He is joined. I love when we get to talk to directors and bring them on the show. Let's welcome Steve Balderson to the show. Steve, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing well. All right. Good to have you on the show here. We've got almost 700 people watching us live on YouTube. Tell us about your movie, Alchemy of the Spirit. It's out today on video on demand. Am I right?
Correct. Prime Video as of now. I think I don't remember which order the other platforms are going to be, like one after the other, but I know you can get it on Prime Video today.
Awesome. Tell us about the film.
Well, it begins with a character played by Xander Berkeley who wakes up and finds that his wife has died overnight in the bed next to him. And as he's coming to realize whether or not he's so out of his mind when this happens at the beginning that it takes a minute for him to realize that she may or may not be dead. And he tries to preserve her. And then as he's creating a death mask of her face, we get an insight into the fact that he's an artist when his art dealer, played by Mink Stoll, calls and says, hey, you got this commission. Do you have any ideas on what you could make? And he's like, yeah, I'm working on it right now, essentially. And then as he's creating this death mask of his wife, she may or may not come back to him. in spirit form, or he's hallucinating or otherwise. But it's sort of a poem or an exposition of grief and what all that means. I mean, grief is a heavy thing, and it was kind of hard to make a movie about just grief in that way.
Well, we've been talking about grief. We've been talking about Henry Cavill not playing Superman anymore. That's a different kind of grief. But
Yes.
First of all, a huge fan of Xander Berkeley. I've interviewed him before. I think he is an underappreciated actor. Most of you
Totally.
might know him. He's briefly featured in Terminator 2, but also Mink Stole. I love Mink Stole. Mink Stole from John Waters films. Mink Stole is awesome. She's so cool. So big fan of hers. We have some questions. So the movie is out on, it is weird with the video on demand platforms when it comes to indie stuff. It kind of not right away, but it's like mostly on video on demand. I always just go to an app called Just Watch. I'll just put the name of a movie in Just Watch to check it out. But we've got some comments and questions here from our chat. Pit Boy Gamer says, "Hail Steve." Jamie G says, "Hey Steve." And Elliot Cecil has a question here that he asked earlier, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Greasy Guidos asks, "Should we watch it with tissues on standby? Sounds heavy."
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's, even though, I mean, I'm going to tell you the story that Karen Black told me on her deathbed, which we can get to.
Oh, wow. The
but
Karen Black.
Yeah, which is sort of part of the inspiration for this film.
Oh, my God.
I think while it starts a little creepy, it actually is very, very beautiful. And it's almost like it's a supernatural love story. So I don't think it produced tears. I think it's a little bit more introspective. If anybody's ever listened to an Alan Watts talk, or like, gone like super, into the universe in your mind, I think it's a little bit more like that, as opposed to something that you might cry about. I think, I don't know. If you do cry, tell me, because I'm curious about that.
Well, Karen Black, by the way, another underappreciated actress, was in probably a thing that I still to this day can't stop thinking about, Trilogy of Terror.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it was a TV produced horror, anthology horror story. She starred in the last segment from it, which was a little, voodoo doll that comes to life and attacks her, and it scared the hell out of me.
And I think that was like the first time they did something like that on, regular TV, cable TV. And I think it did scar everybody who saw it.
I mean, you can get the creature from Trilogy of Terror from that segment. You can get it as an action figure. You can actually sell it. It's crazy. But she was in that. Tell me the story about Karen Black.
Okay, so she was in my film Firecracker, and I'd known her for a number of years. And she knew she was dying. And she said to me, "Do you want to know what it's really like to know you're alive?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "It's in the unknown. Because if you've gone down this road 1,000 times, there's a tree coming up in a village and some cars and some people, you kind of go out of your mind and you're not really present." And she said, if you've never been down this road before, you have no idea what's around the corner. So you have to be very, very present and alert. And it's in that moment of not knowing that you're most truthfully alive. And she said, there's no greater place to be. So when I heard that and I took it in, I simultaneously was putting this movie together, and Xander had given me this book called Unobstructed Universe about a man who was communicating with his dead wife via a psychic. And so as I'm exploring that and I'm thinking about this thing Karen told me, I thought, well, let's have this movie be a constant state of being in the unknown. It's like when someone dies or is about to die or has a grave illness or has lost something or someone, you have no idea what the next 10 minutes are going to feel like for your life. So I said, let's start this movie at this tone. And then just when you think you know where you're going, as a viewer, it shifts. And then just when you think you know where you're going again, it shifts again. And so I invited people, like when it was on film festival circuit and I was presenting it at film festivals, I said, and I'll tell everybody here who hasn't seen it yet, go in with the idea of just remaining really present and soak up what's happening at that moment. Because in a minute, it's going to be different and you're going to have no idea what's going to happen next. And thank God for Karen. It's like, what a great inspiration to have heard that. Because it's kind of changed my life in a way.
Wow. We're getting a lot of great comments and questions. If you don't mind sticking around, Stunt Brat 777 Smith says, Steve B, wow, I got to be a stunt double for Karen Black in the 80s.
Amazing.
And Solomon Thornton asks, what makes a great director, Steve?
Someone who's organized and has decided what they want before they try to go do it.
And Elliot Cecil asked earlier, he says, for $4.99, says, I am a film student and I'm wanting to dip my toes into directing, screenwriting. Where do I start? And how do I eventually get my name out? Thanks. Coming from a director who has done it.
And I did it from Kansas without knowing that I probably shouldn't have at the time. so I think I think it's, go inward and tell what matters to you, and if that appeals to someone, great. And if it doesn't, great. But, you'll still get that sort of energy going and those wheels. I learned more, on the very first day of directing my first film than I ever had in film school. Wow. And, you can learn what you can out of books and going to workshops, but until you're actually doing it and you're learning the lessons of life as you're going through it, I think it's pretty impossible to try to figure it out. So I say just go for it.
I would add one more thing to that. A friend of mine once said, here's what I would say to Elliot. I hope you're still watching and listening. Elliot, make a really good short film. A really good short film. Do not put the short film on YouTube, no matter how tempted you are. Make a good short film. Make it under 10 minutes. Tell a story. Leave them wanting more. And take it on the film festival circuit. A friend of mine said he learned more taking his movie on the festival circuit than he did in grad school. So forget grad school, make a really good short film, get it in a lot of film festivals, and then physically go to those festivals where you'll meet and be around other filmmakers, you'll be around actors, you'll be around producers and people in the industry. Make a great short film, easier said than done. And then you travel the festival circuit for a year, going to festivals and meeting people. You'll have everything you need to be able to go move ahead in your career. Thank you, Elliot, for your support for the channel. Elk3 says, when is it too late to become a director?
Never. I mean, there are people who do it in their 90s. Why I go for it.
Cool. And then let's see. Pip Boy Gamer says, can I make a profitable movie on a Samsung Galaxy?
Sure. My recipe is ask yourself first what you think you're going to get out of it. It's like, what is your market? Who's the market for? Who is this for? Who are the buyers, the people at home who are going to pay for this? And how much money do you think that's going to add up to? And then my advice would be to make whatever that is for half that.
Other questions. Boy, we're getting a lot here. Best way to improve your writing skills?
Remain curious and go out and explore something you've never done before in the world.
Was that kind of your approach with Alchemy of the Spirit? I mean, it sounds very deep, and I'm kind of wondering what the jumping off point was for you with this story.
Well, it was a combination of a lot of stuff. It was like Karen giving me that, my mentor dying. He was my mentor at CalArts, Eric Sherman, who'd written a bunch of film books. And when he died, I felt like it was like Yoda, in a sense of like I could see him across the room. Oh my God. And in fact, this day, so the craziest day ever, I wake up to learn that Eric Sherman has died, my mentor. I feel this great inspiration to start painting again for no reason. And I get in an Uber and go to Blick Art Studio to buy some random canvases. And I walk in, there's this guy staring at me. And he's got these ice blue eyes, and he's just following me, this old man. I'm like, who the fuck is this old man? And finally, it dawns on me, it's David Lynch. And
Wow.
Eric Sherman, my mentor, had introduced me to David in like 99, 2000, 2001 or so. And he and I had never met in person. We'd only faxed each other because David didn't have a phone at the time. And Eric had gotten David's Eraserhead shown at the AFM back in the day when no one else would show it. And I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. And as David's coming towards me, I just reach out my hand and shake his hand and tell him who I am. And he said, it's so good to see you again. And I'm like, you too. And I'm like, we've never seen each other before in our lives. And I told him about Eric having died, and it was kind of intense. And then we just each went around the corner to pick up whatever art supplies we were getting. It was the weirdest thing. And on the way home, I called Sarah Clark and said, Sarah, we need to make a movie about death and all this stuff. And she's like, Xander just landed at LAX, 20 minutes ago. And I call Xander and I'm like, hey, let's do this movie. He's like, meet me at this coffee shop in 20 minutes. And so I'm back across town. And by that point, most of the stories, falling together for me. And then that's where it sort of started. Like that was all those things together are what began it. And I've always been interested in, the universe and what makes us tick and where do we go and what do we do and where does it come from and all this bullshit, which is great.
Xander's great. I've interviewed him at South by. I've interviewed him when we had a different office that we did a podcast before we did video. He is just awesome. He goes for it.
Yeah.
More questions. Megiddo Eubanks says, why did you cast Mink and how did you get to meet her? Because Mink Stoll, not a lot of people know who Mink Stoll is. If you're a John Waters fan, you know exactly who she is. But,
oh, shit. Yeah. The first time I saw her, I was always a John Waters fan, but when I was really aware of her was when she played Dottie Henkel in Serial Mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that poor woman. I love her. And I somehow was introduced to her around 2008 or 9. I think Pleasant Gaiman introduced us. And we were talking about doing a completely different movie. And then we eventually did work together one other time before this. But when I was thinking about, she's a total pro. Like Xander, it's like on set, the most easygoing, no diva, even though you'd think of those types of people as diva behavior, whatever, but nicest people, the coolest people. And that was one of the reasons why I was like, Mink would be really just fun to work with again.
Another question here. Defeater Eater says, for Steve, is a bigger budget generally better than a lower budget? Do you feel capable of doing better work with more funds, or are you more creative with less money?
Well, I love being creative. So, give yourself a box of whatever amount that is, and you figure out how to do bigger, better with that. I've been on projects that are, $1 million or more, and also projects that are like $50,000. And I guarantee you that the creativity that goes into both is the same, and you spend every cent in both places, and in some cases, you still, even if you've got $1 million, you still have to get sponsors, or you trade, or you have, you still have to, because you can't, go up against the $100 million movies and think that you're gonna, it's tricky. But I'd say the value of the dollar doesn't make or break the project being bigger, better, or worse.
Yeah. A comment here from Stuntbrat777, who was Karen Black's stunt double, says, Steve B, agreed. Success is about drive and tenacity. You gotta want it. And we'll wrap it up with this final question here from Sean Z, Construct, who's a member, says, hey, Steve, congrats, man. What camera did your team use, and how important of a decision is that for you, especially since you're a writer as well?
My cinematographer, Hanuman Brown Eagle, owns a few different kinds of cameras, and he and I have had this lengthy discussion. It's not the camera, it's about who's operating them. So, just because you've got a Red Dragon, which is what we shot this Alchemy of the Spirit on in particular, the camera's not going to make it look great if you don't know how to operate it. So regardless of what it is, make sure that you've got a DP who knows what they're doing. But in this case, we used the Red Dragon, which was great.
Cool. And the movie Alchemy of the Spirit is available. It's on Amazon. You could buy, rent.
Yes.
the film. The trailer is on YouTube as well. Check that out. Steve, thank you for coming by the Film Threat livecast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun. It's so good to see you guys.
Great.
Thanks.
All right. Take care. Congrats again on the movie.
Thank you. See
All
ya.
right. Later. Bye.
I should say we reviewed it when it came out at Filmocracy Fest, and Sabina,
It got a great
she
review. It got a great review.
Yeah,
if I
she gave it a
recall.
9 out of 10. So
Yeah.
that should say something about its quality.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here as we do here at Hollywood on the Rocks. But what a day. Alan and I talked about one thing. It doesn't happen. No, we talked about, you know what it was? It was at the top of the show. I wanted to talk about pancakes and the Oscars. And that kind of threw me off. But on Friday, we have a big show. Let me tell you what we're doing on Friday. We are talking about Knock at the Cabin. We'll be doing our spoiler review. Alan will be talking about the new Velma.
The next 2 episodes.
The next 2 episodes. We're also going to talk a little bit more probably about The Last of Us episode 3. We'll get in some of that. 80 for Brady we'll be discussing. And then David Desmalchin from Ant-Man. He plays Carl in Ant-Man. From Oppenheimer. He was in Dune. He has a Count Crowley comic book that's going to be coming out. He'll be doing a signing. I think it's next week. He's doing a signing at a bookstore. And David Desmalchin, also Polka Dot Man. You know, he was in Polka Dot Man. He was Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. So I got to make sure not to forget that. So get your questions ready for David. I will definitely be asking him about James Gunn. And I've known David for years. He is also, like James, very much a guy who'll just tell you the honest truth. And so get ready with your questions for him. That'll be the last part of the show. We'll probably go longer on that interview. Alan, what do you got coming up?
Let's see. We still have we're still pumping out Sundance and Slam Dance reviews. Go to filmthreat.com for those. Some amazing independent films coming up as well. And it looks like I'm doing 80 for Brady tomorrow.
Alan is going to see 80 for Brady. I have already seen the film.
Because Chris Gore said it is the feel-good movie of the year.
Is the feel-good movie that's coming out in January. No, wait, it's February now. It's February. So, and then we're going to be talking about all of that. So Friday is a big, big show. I always love talking to David. He's just a no BS. He's as much of a filmmaker. He's like one of those rare actors that thinks like a filmmaker.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily think just like an actor. And that's what I love about him.
Yeah.
Really
he made this really incredible film with Karen Gillan. That is it's odd. It's got a heavy ending to it.
Well, we'll talk about it. So he is one of those actors that does he'll do like a small indie, but then he's like got a part in a big movie, like in Dune with Denis Villeneuve. And I'm going to ask him about every single one of those. Oh, I'm asking him about James Gunn in DC. I'll be asking David about Dune 2. I'll be asking David about he's Oppenheimer he's worked with some amazing. This is also the second time that he's worked with Christopher Nolan, which is great. But support us and get merch at shop.filmthreat.com. And we appreciate you most of all. We had so many super chats today that kind of derailed our discussion. Now, I'm not complaining. We appreciate it. And we thank you all. And hope to see you all on Friday. If not, you can watch the replay. We don't bank our, we don't, privatize our live streams. We leave them up for you to watch. So Alan, anything else? Wait, you had something you wanted to say. How would you define exploitation, Alan?
Exploitation? Gratuitous. Not a new word. It's not a new word. It's just a mispronunciation.
I love it. I
Oh
love
my
it. Oh man.
Just the fact that you're wasting Glanuccio's time making these videos.
He just threw it up there. And that's a surprise. That's a new
I was just
one.
one letter off, but it was the right word. I used the right word.
Well, look, we have people complaining too short of a stream, says Pigeon Buttercups. Look, I agree, but we can't do, I have other work to do, oddly. What's weird. So I have a very scheduled life. I tell my friends, like, when are we doing this? What time do I have to be there? Okay, I'll be there. And I'm very scheduled. We try to do a minimum of a 2-hour stream. I'll tell you this, Friday, we're going to go long. We're going to go 2.5 hours or more on Friday because David's coming on at the end of the show, and we're going to go long on Friday. So I'll make it up to you. Anything else, everybody? No.
No.
Really appreciate you all in the chat. The fact that we had like almost 700-800 people watching us.
Yeah, we hit 800. So,
and you stuck around for our interview. You know, I like to bring on filmmakers. Why? Because I want you to have the opportunity to talk to filmmakers as a way to inspire you, as a way to get answers to your questions, and real answers, not some BS. Here's the BS answer I hated. I hated this. We'd have speakers. When I was in film school, we'd have speakers come in and they'd say, you should go for your dream. Go for your dream. Just move to California, get in the movie business, and go for your dream. And that's like saying, here's some rope, and if something bad happens to you, that's on you. I feel what you really need is you need a little bit of that motivation. The go for your dream, you need that, but you need like 10-15% of it. And then the rest of it is hard information. What cameras did you use? How did you get the money? How did you get it distributed? I bring the filmmakers on specifically so that you have access to them. And look, I've got my own film coming out, and I'm going to get started with another film. And it's never too late to get started. It's never too late to get started. So there you go. Don't go for your dream. Finish something. Wait, finish something. Don't go for your dream. Finish something, says Imperfect. And Stunt Brat 777 Smith says, Chris, hilarious and true. That is absolutely true. So there you go. Alan, anything else you'd like to say?
Nope. I think that's it.
Well, I just want to say thank you. See you Friday. It's going to be a big, fun show on Friday. Alan, what else?
Let's get out of here.